The theme was ingenious and thought-provoking, and I like that term paranormal. Did you invent that term?
Well, as I said, I hope I did, but somebody's going to Google it and discover... And I wrote a column in Free Inquiry called Atheist for Jesus, which I thought I'd invented, but only to discover somebody immediately told me that it was already out on the web. It's an old term, apparently.
Well, I must say, I have many times had to bring up in my lectures, when people ask me, why don't you investigate this? You brought it up very well here. You suggested that we demonstrate statistically that telepathy, for example, is a fact before we get involved in discussing how it works. The Duke University tests back in the 30s and such more or less assumed that it was there, and they wanted to find a mechanism for it. When I say assumed, they assumed that after they had done some tests that we later know by closer examination, particularly the evidence presented by some 16mm film that showed that they were miscounting dice and misidentifying them, perhaps not purposely, I think quite inadvertently in most cases. But that is something we should all bear in mind, that finding out whether there is a phenomenon to examine, that is the first step. Let's not start spinning our wheels, looking into the theories behind things that have not yet been established. Theories on homeopathy, for example. Endless literature out there on how homeopathy works without finding out whether or not it works in the first place. Yeah. That's a waste of resources, yes, don't you think?
It is. Moreover, I think in the stage one, when you're doing your statistical test to discover whether there is a phenomenon there worth investigating, it has to be a robust phenomenon. I mean, some of the alleged statistical demonstrations are terribly elusive, evasive almost. I mean, you get, sometimes the effect is there, sometimes it isn't, sometimes it seems to depend on the weather, and sometimes it depends on whether there are any skeptics present, and it's...
True.
I think in order to be worthy of moving on to stage two, if it's inherently implausible, as these things of course are, then it must be a proper, robust phenomenon which stands up to repeated experimental test. And even those cases in the 30s when you said the J.B. Rhine group thought they had a phenomenon worth testing, they had enormous numbers. You expect to get a suggestion of statistical significance if your numbers are that great. A really robust phenomenon should show up reliably and repeatably.
Indeed. Well, I must tell you that in establishing the ways that the James Randi Educational Foundation tests claims, we take every precaution to be sure that what you mentioned there, the presence of skeptics, doesn't interfere with it, because we know that's a deadly force to these paranormal events. And I have always insisted that it be done when I don't even know about it, because they say that it works through time and space. That has no reference to it whatsoever and no effect on it. That if I even know that the test is taking place, then I can use my absent vibrations to doom the results. So what we did in many cases with the homeopathic tests that were done for the BBC that got such attention, what was not mentioned there was the fact that I approved the protocol. That is, I gave them my opinion on the protocol, and I saw no faults with it whatsoever, and I told them, yes, go ahead and do it this way, and that I would risk the reputation of the JREF on the results of it, and that it would be eligible for the $1 million prize. But then I cautioned them, I want you to do it entirely, and I do not want you to inform me when it's taking place. Only call me not closer than a week after everything has taken place, so that you can say to me what the results were if you choose to, and they didn't. They waited till I got to England to cause a little bit of trepidation. Oh, I was frightened in the plane home. I wonder, will I have lost the $1 million? But I took that precaution. You see, that was not mentioned. Yeah. They didn't think it was too important.
Could I ask you a question about the $1 million prize? I would be worried if I were you, because because of the fact that we have perinormal possibilities. Yes. I mean, what if there really is a paranormal phenomenon which is going to be embraced within science and will become normal, but at present is classified conventionally as paranormal, and so that's waiting to be demonstrated, and if it will be demonstrated if there really is a paranormal phenomenon there. I mean, you shouldn't have to pay out for that because it becomes physics, but I wonder how you define that which you're prepared to pay out for.
Well, first of all, I'll say that if we had to pay out the $1 million, I'd happily do it. We would have discovered something wonderful and new, and it would be worth $1 million to have that phenomenon established. Now, when they ask me, what do you mean by paranormal, I refer them to the dictionary. Now, as we all know, dictionaries don't define words, but they do give common usage or current usage, most popular usage, and we're subject to that. Defining words is a rather risky process because they will change during usage internationally, on an international basis, certainly. Now,